that this book is a guidance and a living guidance for people who protect themselves and want to be cautious. The word al-muttaqeen is a noun in the Arabic language. It's called an ism fa'il in the Arabic language. But in English, when I translate it, I have to use a verb. I don't use a noun. I have to say things like those who protect themselves. And when I said that in English, the word protect was a verb. The thing is that there's a fundamental difference in the Arabic language between verbs and nouns. And though this is not a grammar class, one thing I should be able to explain to you with little difficulty is that verbs are temporary. When you say he eats, that doesn't mean he's always going to eat. It's not permanent, it's just in the present tense. A verb is either in the past tense or the present tense or the future tense, which means it's not timeless, which means it's temporary. As opposed to it, a noun like tree or car or truth or something like that. These are nouns. Nouns don't have a tense. They don't have a past tense, they don't have a present tense, they don't have a future tense. And so when you use nouns, you're actually referring to something permanent or timeless that isn't caged by time, as opposed to a verb. Now that's important because even though in the English translation of the Quran, the difference between verbs and nouns gets kind of murky. It mixes up together, right? Because it's sometimes difficult, because in the language of the Quran, sometimes there's a noun, but it's very hard to translate it as a noun. So we end up translating it as a verb. And when we do that, some of the original intention and power of that word is lost. And so you have to go out of your way to kind of explain, well, this one was a noun, and that means Allah is suggesting something permanent. And that's important in the case of Hudal lil-Muttaqeen, because when Allah Azza wa Jalla says al-Muttaqeen, the people who protect themselves, are cautious, who take precaution, Allah is referring to a group of people that will always be there. He's not just saying these are people that used to be in the past, back in the day, and then now they're not there anymore. And this is a big shift from what Allah talked about. The good people Allah talked about right before al-Muttaqeen, the good people Allah talked about was in Fatiha. He said, Sirata alladhina an'amta alayhim. The path of those who you have showered favor upon. That was the last good group of people that we read about in the sequence of the Quran. But notice there, those of you that are familiar with Arabic, alladhi an'amta alayhim, those who you favored, or you showered favor upon, that's the past tense, yes? So in Fatiha, we're supposed to look for role models in the past. Because the people who Allah truly showered favor upon and gave guidance to, those are the heroes of this deen from the past. Those are the, an-nabiyyin, as-siddiqeen, as-shuhada, as-salihin. Those are the prophets, those who confirm the truth of the prophets, like the companions, radiallahu anhu ajma'in. Great people like the scholars or the righteous that we read about. Even there are, in the Quran, Allah talks about great people that are not prophets, and that are not sahabis or companions of a prophet, like the people of the cave, for example. They're not prophets, and they're not companions of a prophet either, but they're great people, right? So, but they're also in the past. So we look for role models in the past. And that's important to understand because, you can have a role model in the present. You can have somebody you look up to in the present, but that's always going to be limited because they're still alive, which means they're still open to the waswasa of shaitan, which means they can still fall before they die. But the people that have died, and Allah gave them the certificate of graduation, that they're successful in their guidance, and Allah approved of them, those are guaranteed role models. When I explain that concept, often I give the example of college students. College students, if you're studying accounting or business, then you don't take advice from the guy who's in the same year as yourself, even if he's an A student. You take advice from someone who graduated from that university with the same degree and now has a job. Because they've already treaded this path, and so they're in much better position to give you advice, as opposed to someone who's on the journey along with you at the same time. So the point I'm trying to make is that in the Fatiha, we look for role models where? In the past. But then it kind of makes you also depressed a little bit because it maybe gives the implication that the only people to look forward to, or the only good people, all the good people are all gone, and the only thing left is us, the leftovers. So there's no hope for us, because those who Allah favored, all back in the day. What Surah Al-Baqarah does from the very beginning by using the word al-muttaqeen, the ism fa'il, the noun, is to say that the people of taqwa, for whom the doors of guidance are going to stay open. Those people were in the past, you're going to find them in the present, and they're also going to be there in the future. No matter how bad times get, how modern they get, the Muslim should not develop this sick mentality, man, I wish I lived in the time of the Prophet ﷺ because the good people were back then, now it's just us. And a lot of Muslims have accepted about themselves that they're bad people, that they can't be people of taqwa. This is actually absolutely absurd. And it's negated from the very first discourse in Surah Al-Baqarah by Allah Azza wa Jal using the words al-muttaqeen.